Welcome to the Foster Your Passion podcast, where entrepreneurs, who are mostly women, share their passions, their lessons, and leave you feeling uplifted, motivated, and possibly even inspired to go and foster your own passion. I'm your host, Haley Foster, and this is the Foster Your Passion podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Foster Your Passion podcast. I'm super excited to be speaking to local Port Washington TV woman, Cassie
Nadaner.
Okay. I'm so excited to have you here. We've sort of been following each other all over the place, and I, as a woman entrepreneur who has supported the women entrepreneurs in this town for so long, I am so happy to have like a partner in crime with somebody else that has jumped in and is doing other things to support these local women here in our town. So, Cassie, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. This is a wonderful opportunity, and I'm so thankful for it.
Awesome. Well, you're usually the one doing the interviewing, so you're going to have to tell me how I do after this.
I know this is like almost bizarre for me because I'm like, I don't have to think of much.
Right? You're like, I'm on the other side today. Well, welcome to being on the other side.
Thank you.
Awesome. Talk to me a little bit about your journey into this. You know, I was reading the bio that you wrote, but obviously it sounds better coming from you. So I don't want to mess up your story. So tell us a little bit how you came to Port Washington and how you started this business.
So I guess my boyfriend at the time and I, Chris, were just bored in the pandemic. I was fortunate enough to be employed throughout the pandemic, but working from home, obviously, because I was a nanny. I'd spent 12 years being a nanny. My education background is in human development and early childhood studies. So being a nanny was actually something I truly enjoyed. I loved the bonds that I made with the families. And I was with a particular family in Rockville Center for about 4 years. Pandemic hit, and we were all unsure of what that meant, especially having not a stranger, but somebody else outside of your immediate family coming into your house every day, going back home. Chris at the time was traveling on the railroad still, so I had to just stay home. But I was so fortunate enough to be able to keep my job and continue to have an income. So we got bored real fast, and I'm one of those go-getter, I needed to do something. And at the time we were living in Bayside, Queens, and I was helping someone in Bayside sort of try to do the same thing that I then started doing here, which is promoting the businesses that were hurting. June came of 2020, and we decided to move from Bayside. We found Port Washington in our travels, and we fell in love with Port Washington immediately. I mean, it dawned on us it was the place we wanted to raise a family. It was the place we wanted to stay full-term, long-term, forever. So we started renting in Port Washington. A month later, we got engaged. We got a COVID puppy. I mean, we just really were on a roll to do as much of the craziest things as possible. So our lives were super changing. And I took everything that I was doing in Bayside, and I saw all these empty storefronts in Port Washington. And, you know, by being on one of the many, I think there's like 15 Facebook groups for Port Washington right now. So after seeing all these groups talking about how can we help the restaurants, how can we help? And, you know, everybody here was so supportive in supporting the local restaurants, and especially, but there were so many other businesses that I was noticing firsthand that were really struggling. So after starting Port Washington TV and trying to build up these restaurants and businesses as best as I could, I did a piece for Painting with Flowers. I worked with IHON a couple times, and it was getting really well received. Come the holiday time of last year, I thought, you know what, let me put together a in-town Port Washington local gift guide so that people who were looking for presents for the holidays didn't have to go to big box stores, didn't have to leave our town, whether it be getting a gift certificate to a restaurant or shopping at Sweet 25 and then going across the street to Painting with Flowers. It was, and then on top of that, there were so many at home COVID businesses, if you want to call them that, that started out of the home, that maybe don't have the money to rent a brick and mortar, but they're still businesses. So I compiled this list. It was a solid few full pages, and it was well received. Fast forward a couple months later to February of this year, I thought it would be worth a try to open up a very temporary one-time pop-up shop in one of Ihan's storefronts. He had a couple, and he and I had gotten very close business-wise because I was helping him and he's helped everybody. So I said, what if I just borrow one of your stores? I'll have Chris, my fiancé, paint the store. He'll make it look nice. And I did. And we ran for 2 weekends straight. And I got over 100 plus inquiries of small businesses that wanted to be a part of this pop-up store. And I didn't have the space for it. And it was nothing I joke around, but it was nothing I wanted to do. It wasn't in my career path. Retail was something that I did, after graduating college and throughout high school. So here I am finding myself with this, feel good of I'm really helping people here and they're really, benefiting. But what am I going to do? So after a lot of careful consideration, I decided that the best thing would be to give it a try and rent a storefront. And here came the local market. And it's been very well received. We're very excited to be here. We're hoping to not only generate someplace fun and unique for Port Washington and our customers, but we're also hoping to be generating traffic for Port Washington and for Main Street so that our other businesses can thrive as well.
That's amazing. I love that you're just a doer, right? And that's like just so my personality too, where you're like, I have an idea. I'm just going to throw it together and see what happens. I mean, I love it because it's so after my own heart in every which way in terms of obviously the entrepreneurs don't you find it amazing just how many entrepreneurial companies there are in this town? I know there's a lot of mostly women in your space too, but it's amazing just how many women in this town have that entrepreneurial energy and drive.
I have met some of the most, excuse my language, badass women that I am impressed by, inspired by every day. I mean, from my neighbors to my actual vendors to my retailers, I had no idea that there were so many go-getters and hustlers, and it's truly amazing. And I'm so fortunate, and I'm so glad and honored to be able to provide a space for all of these businesses to have a true chance at selling their product.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And by the way, this is like a non-PG podcast, so you can drop any bombs that you want. Cool. We're all about dropping bombs on this podcast. It's all awesome. Good. So where do you see the storefront going from here? Did you sign a long-term lease?
So we did, which was, of course, more nerve-wracking than signing a residential lease that we did just a few months ago here in Port Washington. It is scary. I've never done something like this before. I wouldn't be able to do it without, the support that I have around me. But yes, we are in it for the long-term, long haul, indefinitely, however long we can manage to stay around. We would like to stay around for. And we have really exciting things coming. I don't know if you're familiar or if everyone else is familiar with A&R Workshop's old space or 273.
I love that space.
It's ginormous. And one of the things when Ihan and I were talking, and, he wanted to make sure that, I knew what I was doing before I went in there. I kept saying to him, I don't know what else this space could truly be if not for an indoor market or a place where you can have classes. Or so we took it upon ourselves to just really like brainstorm, what can this store actually be? It started as just being vendors only. It was supposed to be an empty store. I was putting no money into it, no thought process into it, just having my vendors on Saturdays and Sundays. And from there, it turned into, let's do the front half of the store, retail 5 days a week. We'll have the market still on Saturday and Sunday. Now we're hosting classes on Friday nights, Thursday nights. We're participating in Port Outdoors. And in June, in the first week of June, we're actually going to have our first local artists gallery. So it's going to be professionally curated. It's right now going through the call for artists submission phase where you can submit and hopefully get chosen to be on our walls. And then Saturdays and Sundays, when you come to the market, you'll be able to view the art. When you come into the retail store, you'll be able to view the art. So we're also really excited to be giving, especially with Port Washington having so many fantastic photographers and artists. I mean, this is a very artsy community. And we're really excited to give a free space for people to just come in. And if they're browsing Main Street and want to do something, come on in, take a look.
That's awesome. And are you looking for just local artists, or are you looking for artists from anywhere?
So I think there's a big misconception on the word local. I've hit it a couple times. For us, there are a lot of stores on Long Island or in New York or in the United States that sell products that are considered local. In our store specifically, we cater to New York only. Okay. So we're at this stage where there are enough vendors and there's enough talent in a very close 10-mile radius that we don't need to go to Chicago to get macrame or wherever. We have so many people. So I would say that 85% of our stuff is in the Port Washington, Manhasset, Roslyn area. There are some Hamptons artists, there are some New York City, Brooklyn artists, and we will accept everything that is New York state based right now. And we hope to be able to stay that way for the indefinite future. We don't feel like there's a need to expand past New York.
Gotcha. Okay. I just made a note to myself to reach out to one of the foster women who is a headshot photographer. She is also a fine art photographer, and her stuff is beautiful. So I'm going to speak to her. Her husband actually has an office like right down the street from you. So they're in town a lot, and I feel like it could be really fun for her. Yes. So I will connect you to and have her reach out. So I want to talk about something that you didn't really touch on, but the title of this, as you saw when I sent it to you, is sort of like Get Knocked Down, Get Back Up Again, because I know a little bit more to your story about it not being as easy as transition as you made it seem in terms of the Port Washington TV. Can you just share that story? Because I think it's really important for people to hear that, even if you're, you get a little beat up, the thing that is the thing to do is to get back up again. And you had a situation, and I just wanted to see if you would be willing to share that.
Of course. So when I was moving to Port Washington, I was working with somebody over in Bayside, and I had said, listen, I can't do this in Bayside anymore. I am not only tied to my life now in Port Washington, but I see this as such an opportunity to help my new town, my new resident. And he was all on board. And so we originally started as Port Washington Live TV. And he basically said to me, listen, this is your baby. You live here. I wouldn't have gone to this town if it weren't for you. I know nothing about Port Washington. I'll stay in Bayside. You take over the Port Washington side of things. So that was nerve-wracking because, again, I'm a nanny. My experience is in childcare. I'm not, and a lot of people ask me on a daily basis, oh, so your background's in film? I'm like, no. They're like, oh, so it's in business. I'm like, no. So I have no film, television, radio professionalism whatsoever. This was just me trying to help. And I guess I was a good solid 6 months on my own in Port Washington, and I started getting pressure from this person that I was in this business with to collect money. It was all about money. And here I was doing this sort of out of the goodness of my heart, just trying to build back up businesses. I never asked anyone in town for a penny for myself. And he would get very upset that, I'm doing all this work and I'm helping all these businesses and I'm showing zero for it. And I kept saying, we're in a really different time. This is not a time. And I said, and not for nothing, I'm moving into this town. This is my community now. I don't feel comfortable asking people for money when they can barely keep their lights on, when they can barely provide. And here all these restaurants I'm seeing are helping the frontline workers and doing the best they can to stay alive while also make such an impact. And here I'm going to come in saying, well, you have to pay me for this advertisement if you want me to. So it was a sour ending to what was supposed to be something really good. And I had to go off on my own. There was way too much pressure to monetarily, charge people this, that, and the third, and subscription this and sponsorship this. And while that's how people have to make their money, I get it. That wasn't my business. Right. I'm not somebody who's, collecting money off of people to do something that I don't even have a career in. I don't even have an educational background in. I was walking around town with a cell phone on a tripod. There was nothing, there was nothing refined about
Not
me.
like you had a TV crew or anything.
Right. So to go up to people and say, well, this is going to be X amount of dollars, but I'm going to hope that my microphone doesn't crap out on you. Like that, to me, just didn't sit right. The person I was working with got very angry at that approach and said some really horrible things. And I think that, we're supposed to be lifting people up right now, especially as a woman. I want to feel empowerment. I don't want to feel knocked down, especially by a man. And it was a very hard thing to deal with because here, you put your energy and your heart and soul into something and you're being completely 100% selfless, and you're sort of getting reprimanded for it, for trying to do good. So one day I woke up and I had the nastiest text message. I was locked out of all of my email accounts, Facebook accounts, Instagram accounts. And I had this person walking around my town telling people that I had stopped doing what I'm doing because I'm following my dream career in real estate. So meanwhile, I've done just about everything so far, but real estate is never going to be one of them. I give so much credit to realtors, but that's never anything that's crossed my mind. So I was very upset and very hurt. And, hearing that not only is someone going around saying false things about me, but, at least people were asking, where's Cassie? Like, what happened to Cassie? Who are you? People had never seen this man before. And then all of a sudden, here he was standing in the middle of a cemetery in one of his, Port Washington live TV pieces. And people were confused. And I said, instead of addressing it and making a big thing about it, let me just change the name and see if I can sort of get away with that. And I did for a little bit. I had to sort of, address the elephant in the room. And people still to this day don't understand the difference between the two channels. But I did what I felt was best to help, again, Port Washington and the community. But it was horrible. It was a very terrible, trying experience.
And is he still doing that in Port Washington?
That's a good question. Every once in a while, I'll get a call from my mom who will be like, oh my goodness, he tried to do something at the post office and it was horrible and ridiculous. And I'm like, don't even give it any light, but I don't think anybody really knows who he is. I don't think he has any sincerity to what he would be doing here. He's not a Port Washington resident. He knows nobody here. Nobody knows who he is. So it turned into more of like a pissing contest with him. And I wasn't about that because so he was going around trying to, lie about where I was, but at the same time collect money from our businesses. And it put me in a really weird position because here I am being like, don't give him money. Like, don't give him your money. Like, please don't. But, professionally, I tried to walk away from the whole thing, and it was just a nightmare. But I don't know what he's doing now. I wish him nothing but the best, but please just stay away from me.
Right.
It's hard. I think that there are a lot of I don't want to say men because I'm not gearing towards one sex over the other, but I think that it's intimidating. Here I was, fresh meat essentially, having no training or experience, and here came this man who claimed to have all this experience in the world and this film background, and it's amazing how much you can let someone sort of talk down to you or make you feel horrible for trying to do a good thing. And so.
Right. Well, good for you for pivoting and shifting gears and figuring out a way to continue to do something that was of service to this community and not let him, beat you down. And, kudos. it's a hard thing to do, especially given, that this is not your background. This is not what you're educated in. So good for you. And are you still doing the TV stuff, or are you mostly focused now on the market?
So I would give you the most honest answer that I can give you, and that is I am 100% focused on the market right now. But with that in mind, I don't say no to anybody who approaches me and says, could you, I know the school board elections come up and
tomorrow, big day.
Big day. So anytime someone, needs help or a new business is coming into town, like I know Andy's pizzeria. And then I also reached out to Crazy Cakes, and just so that they know that as soon as you open, or that Versus Sports Bar, as soon as you guys, want me, I'm going to come. I'll come with my old crew. We'll do a nice little review for you, and we'll help, because I still do have that following and I worked really hard to get it. So yes, I will do anything for anybody. And I use it for the local market. I mean, I would sort of be a silly businesswoman if I didn't take advantage of cross promoting there. But it helps. I have a wonderful editor who's a college intern, and she, this is actually her career and her profession. So I'm happy to give her work and, help her with her grad program. So she's fantastic. She's the one who edits and does all of our videos. So I still like giving her work and helping. I'm all about helping whomever I can help.
Awesome. That's amazing. That's amazing. So anything that other than the artist gallery is opening next weekend, right? June 4th. This will go live before then so that we can use this as a promotional piece for you. So
awesome.
Local artist gallery opening June 4th at, what's the address on Main Street?
273 Main Street, next to Suite 275 and down the block from Shields. We're also really excited. We're participating in our first Port Outdoors, which everyone's asking me a million questions that I don't really have the answers to, but just show up and we'll make it happen. So we're going to do our indoor market, but we're going to put it outdoors and hope that no one rolls down the hill because I'm on a little bit of a hill. And I believe you're going to be joining us.
I will be there.
So we're so excited to have you and a bunch of other really great, with the exception of one, it's going to be a all-women crowd for us. Some of my strongest women makers are going to be there, and we're just going to have a good time and see how it goes, and people can get information about the art show there. We will have a booth for our call for artists.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I'm excited. It's going to be, and this weather this week is supposed to be absolutely beautiful. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, it sticks that way for Thursday night for Port Outdoors. But I just wanted to, hop on here with you today, talk about what you're doing. It's truly amazing and inspirational that you walked into a town, you saw the problem, and that's what I love about entrepreneurial spirits. You jumped right in, wanting to help out and figure out a solution. And so thank you for doing what you do for this town. It is amazing. We could totally talk about, you weren't here when I started doing this thing called Co-Table, but we should talk about that because it's still a great idea. And if you're not doing those artist galleries in the back and you're interested in sort of having a little bit of a co-working space back there when you don't have the vendors in the back room, we should chat because there's a lot of people in this town that are always looking for a place to go and sit with a laptop. So,
well, that was the great thing about doing the art gallery is that we're not limiting that. That's just going to be decoration on a wall. That's going to be, while you're walking through my store and you say, hey, what's back there? I'm going to go check that out. But also for my vendors, it's a nice atmosphere to have your stand set up. We're going to do classes on Friday nights. Totally. I mean, it's just a great atmosphere. So we're more than happy anytime anybody needs a place to do something with their small business or, have a meeting or, drink a coffee with your laptop. Do whatever you got to do as long as it's to help, these small businesses. We're happy to do so.
Awesome. Well, we'll connect offline after this. So, Cassie, thank you so much for being here today. I try to keep these short and sweet because who's got time these days to cram in all their podcasts? I mean, my husband plays his on like 2.0 speed. So it's like, beep, 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 beep.
Please don't do that, people. I promise I won't sound that good on 2.0. So try to listen to it.
Neither will I. Because I already talk fast to begin with and loud. So thank you for being here. This has been great. I love your journey. I love what you're all about. And thank you for supporting Port.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Haley.
Absolutely. Thanks for tuning in. I'm your host, Haley Foster, and I hope you'll join me next time for more inspiring women who are fostering their passions each and every day. Please subscribe wherever you download your podcast and follow us on social media at Fostering 101.